Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, for everyone that are joining us from the Caribbean, good morning, buenos dias. For all those that are joining us from Europe, good afternoon. My name is Pablo Quiles. I'm the manager of Trade Advisory Services at International Economics, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to this webinar on trade and investment opportunities in infrastructure and utilities in the CARIFORUM region. I will be your moderator for today. We have a packed afternoon full of interesting speakers, and I do hope that you enjoy it. This webinar covers the findings from the fourth study that we have implemented in the context of the project of supporting the EU CARIFORUM EPA. And this has been commissioned by has been funded by the European Commission, and is a project implemented by GOPA in cooperation with International Economics Consulting, PMCG, and BNS Europe. Before we start, perhaps a little bit of housekeeping rules. Just for information, everyone, this webinar is being recorded, and it will later on be posted throughout different sharing platforms, such as YouTube and perhaps social media messaging. The webinar will consist in a number of plenary sessions with great speakers that have agreed to participate and share their expertise with us. And we will as well have a Q&A at the end of every session. So, for example, at the end of the first session, we will have 3 speakers present their reports and the findings, and then the Q&A at the end, similar for session 2. We will also we would like to give the participants the opportunity to listen to all the speakers and the time they have reserved for this webinar. So, as I mentioned before, please, the speakers, kindly observe the time allocated to each of you. I do encourage all the participants, all the attendees, to be as active as possible. Please use the chat function. Is the way that we have used to communicate. If you have any question, please post it in the chat together with to whom you want it to be addressed. And if you want to please as well introduce yourself, you will also find in the chat the link to today's agenda, the updated one. At the end of the opening session, we will as well kindly request all of you to turn the cameras on for a group photo that as well will be posted in social media. If you do not want to, please don't turn your camera on. You will also see that across the different across the webinar, there will be polls that will pop out in your screens. We kindly request that you as well answer them, as will give us information about your interest and as well for improvement of the future events. Without further ado, it is now my absolute pleasure to give the floor to invite Mr. David Mogollon. Mr. Mogollon is the head of cooperation of the delegation of the European Union to Barbados, the Eastern Caribbean States, Trinidad and Tobago, the OECS, and CARIFORUM. He is also our host for the evening. So, Mr. Mogollon, the floor is yours for opening remarks. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Pablo, and welcome to all of you, distinguished panelists, for today's discussions, consultants, business people from the European Union, as well as CARIFORUM countries and other participants. Welcome. The need for sustainable and reliable infrastructure and utilities in the Caribbean region is a critical issue. As we all know, this region faces challenges and vulnerabilities such as climate change and natural disasters, in energy dependence, water and sanitation deficiencies, and transportation gaps. In addition, many of the Caribbean countries are heavily reliant on tourism as an income earner. This reliance, however, has to be delicately balanced with sustainable infrastructure and practices, as well as the protection of the environment and preserving natural habitats. Addressing these needs, therefore, requires a combination of national initiatives and international partnerships with a commitment to sustainability and resilience. I'm proud to say as we commemorate the 15-year anniversary of the signing of the CARIFORUM-EU EPA this year, this agreement supports the conditions for increased investment and economic growth, including in the infrastructure and utilities sector. In recognition of this, CARIFORUM countries, as part of the EPA, have also made significant offers, in particular in export-oriented and infrastructure sectors key for their development, such as telecommunications, transport, tourism, manufacturing, and environmental services. Taking a global look, we see in the wake of the fourth industrial revolution and the COVID-19 pandemic, critical sectors like infrastructure and utilities demand increased attention for sustainable economic growth and development. At present, the electricity grid and the water sectors are modernized by varying degrees of development and are often marred by constraints such as high cost, lack of technical capacity, and underinvestment. Therefore, European companies can offer solutions which leverage innovative technologies, materials, and practices. This is precisely the purpose of the EU Global Gateway Strategy, which is the EU's offer to scale up high-quality, sustainable investment, also by promoting an enabling environment that allows for such investments to happen. The Global Gateway Investment Agenda identifies project packages in which public finance is mobilized to create the conditions and predictability that bring further EU private sector investments. Renewable energy and water are priority sectors for the Global Gateway Investment Agenda in many Caribbean countries, making opportunities in infrastructure and utilities particularly timely and relevant. In the energy sector, despite the high electrification rates in the region, the reliability of the power supply is a significant challenge in a number of CARIFORUM countries. Although the conditions of each country's energy industry are different, most of them have similar supply problems. This includes inadequate generation capacity and obsolete power system. While CARIFORUM countries have made strides in transitioning to renewable energy sources, the region's grid remain underdeveloped, with issues of reliability, accessibility, and high cost. In order for the region to continue its transition to renewable energy technologies, the electricity grid must be modernized. This ensures that the electricity grids become stable and have the capability of safely interconnecting more renewable energy technologies to the grid without compromising on service quality. Recent developments, punctuated by the ongoing war in Ukraine, have brought the importance of energy security into the spotlight. With energy and fuel prices skyrocketing in 2022, the world struggled to keep prices within a range that makes basic goods and services affordable to their citizens. Therefore, there is the urgent need for the Caribbean to diversify its energy resources to ensure energy security. In the Caribbean, there is an abundance of renewable energy resources, such as hydro, wind, solar, and geothermal, which are yet to be fully developed. The potential for renewable energy deployment in the region is significant, as it can have cross-cutting benefits across different sectors and industries. However, good grid infrastructure is needed for this to take place. The regional shift towards renewable energy offers prospects for European companies with expertise not only in green technology, but also in grid modernization. In the water sector, utilities continue to be challenged with improving efficiencies in an effort to expand the reach of municipal services to increase household access to clean and efficient water supplies. There are major differences across the region in the ability of utilities to assure access to potable supplies with limited investments in the sector, aging infrastructure, and loss of profitability resulting from high losses from non-revenue water. In the face of this, the EU has steadily been working with countries through a number of initiatives to strengthen the regulatory framework, to encourage investment, and to support resilience for utilities, especially in the face of the additional impact caused by climate change. These solutions are costly and cannot be addressed through government financing and official development assistance funding alone. Private climate investment is needed to advance the challenge needed in the sector to facilitate modernization and to improve both system efficiencies and access. This does not only extend to potable water, but to the treatment of domestic and industrial wastewater and the exploration of reuse for augmentation of water supplies. For example, in Barbados, 5Cs has engaged with the EIB, leveraging grant funding under the Climate Resilience Program to redirect concessional financing for the expansion of a district metering program in Barbados. Such initiatives support the efforts needed for evidence-based action to address water losses towards reducing some of the unknowns in the supply end of the sector. These improvements are the fundamental preparatory steps needed to encourage investments for further advancement in the sector. Finally, when it comes to the road network, many CARIFORUM states still rank low when it comes to the percentage of paved roads on their territories. Moreover, the climate conditions in most Caribbean states, such as heat, erosion, landslides, and other natural hazards, put a heavy strain on most roads, which require constant maintenance and modernization. That sector therefore also offers solid investment opportunities. This is all the more important as road networks are paramount for efficient inland connectivity, affecting the development of tourism services, general economic growth, and people's mobility and quality of life. In conclusion, the CARIFORUM region presents great opportunities for EU firms in the water and sanitation, electricity, infrastructure, and road network sectors. In this context, the CARIFORUM-EU EPA is a key tool for EU businesses to access and invest in CARIFORUM member states. With 65 to 75% of CARIFORUM member states' service sectors open to EU operators, EU firms can establish commercial presence and invest in the region across those particular sectors and many other related ones. The current partnership between the EU and the CARIFORUM region offers fertile ground for strategic engagement into sustainable development projects, enabling EU investors and service providers to use their expertise and the EPA, helping Caribbean economies grow in a sustainable and resilient manner for a better future. Thank you all for the attention this morning.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mogollon. I think very well said. I would like to perhaps remark the fact that not only reemphasize the importance that the sector has for the development of the region, but also as well the role that the European private sector can play in upgrading the infrastructure of the region, that this is further facilitated by the EPA. Moving on, may I now please invite everyone that has joined us here to please, if they want, switch on their cameras for a photo. This will be further disseminated via our social media. But rather than cheese, please say everyone EPA. Excellent. Thank you, everyone. And while we wait for everyone, just as a reminder, we have interpretation available. All right, we're going to take the picture now. I hope, Alison, you managed to take it. Just say yes.
Yes, thanks. But not everyone under photos.
Thank you, everyone.
But thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for that. As I was mentioning, there is interpretation available at the bottom of your screen. We can switch between English or Spanish. Thank you, everyone. And as well, you will see on your screens, there is going to be a first poll showing up. We have the host, please show them. The poll is about here you go, your knowledge level on the EPA. So we want to know how familiar are you with the Economic Partnership Agreement, with the scale of very familiar to very unfamiliar. We do hope that those that say somewhat familiar or very unfamiliar, we are able to increase their knowledge about the EPA through the first session. We're going to give some more minutes. All right, we have so over half of the participants, something around 65%, show that they are very familiar or somewhat familiar with the EPA. Thank you very much. Well, as well, we have around 26% showing that they are somewhat unfamiliar and 9% that are very unfamiliar. So we hope that for those, we will be able to solve that situation and increase your knowledge about not only the EPA, but especially the opportunities arising from it. Without further ado, we'll now proceed with session 1, which aims to provide you, as I mentioned, with an overview of the main business opportunities that have emerged from the study with regards to in the infrastructure and utilities sector. For this study, and as well with other ones, we had the incredible support of Euro chambers in Trinidad and Tobago and the Dominican Republic, which are officially thanked for that, and which are also as well the voice of the European businesses in the CARIFORUM. The first lineup is the quarterback is Mr. Stefan Quash. Mr. Stefan is the director of the European Business Chamber in Trinidad and Tobago. He will speak and will introduce us not only the Euro Chamber, but also he's a seasoned professional in the water sector, and he will also elaborate on opportunities and challenges in the sector. Stefan, the floor is yours. Please remember 10 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Pablo, and good morning, everybody. I'll share my screen, hoping it works. Is it okay? Are you seeing my screen?
We see your screen. We're just waiting for you to put it on presentation mode.
Yes.
There you go. Perfect.
Okay, so once again, good morning, everybody. So my name is Stefan Quash. I'm a director of Eurocham TT, the European Business Chamber in Trinidad and Tobago, and I'm also a hydraulic engineer. So I'll give you a brief presentation. I'm trying to stick to the schedule. A brief presentation of Eurocham TT first, then of water utilities in the CARIFORUM. Then thirdly, the importance of climate resilient infrastructure, which Dominic captured on early on, and opportunities for you businesses in the Caribbean, and then challenges. So first, Eurocham TT. So Eurocham TT was founded 10 years ago, and its aim and what we are striving to do is to be the voice of European business in Trinidad and Tobago. So basically, we have three pillars of activity: advocacy, trade support, and climate action. And we also trying to be the key partner for European institutions and extending European programs within the region. As I said previously, these are the three pillars of our activity: advocacy, trade support, and climate action. So advocacy, we are following 19 areas of concern, which we are closely monitoring, lobbying the authorities in terms of the regulatory and legal environment. In terms of trade support, we also support companies, not only our members, but also all European companies trying to export to the region, and also Trinidadian companies who want to do business in the European Union. In terms of climate action, we're also promoting sustainability, resilience, And we participate in a number of activities, including the Sustainability Champion Awards, which we co-organize with the UNTT office every year. This is just to give you a brief context of the CARIFORUM region, approximately 30 million inhabitants, including Dominican Republic, with a GDP per capita, which is very variable, but in purchase power parity, it varies from 1,800 to 31,000 in Trinidad and Tobago. Urbanization, more than 55% on average, and there again, it's very variable. Human Development Index, they're also very variable, from 0.5 in Haiti to 0.813 in Barbados. Annual rainfall from 1.1 meter in Bahamas, which can be considered as a water stress country, to 2.3, 2.4 meters in Guyana. And there also, in terms of renewable water resources, from a low of 271 in Barbados to a high of 330, close to 340,000 in Guyana. In terms of water utilities, I'll be focusing on that. I'm a hydraulic engineer, so that's the area I know best. So, there's a number of challenges which, Dominic spoke of early on. Most of the water utilities are run by the public sector. Non-revenue water levels are high, non-revenue water being the difference between what you produce in volume and what you bill in volume. There's limited managerial autonomy, poor governance frameworks, and the persistence of information gaps. Tariff regimes are not well developed. Collection and treatment of wastewater is lacking in comparison with water supply. 97% of the population in the CARIFORUM has access to potable pipe-borne water supply, but only 14% have access to sewage services. Most countries do not include a long-term financial plan. They have not established measurable targets for meeting their policy objectives. The legal and institutional frameworks are underdeveloped, and there's underinvestment in the sector. This is an interesting graph which comes from the IDB, which shows basically the ranking of utilities in the Caribbean region. On the x-axis, you have the performance, and on the y-axis, you have the governance framework, the development of the governance framework. So you can see there's a semblance of correlation between the governance framework and the performance. Belize being one of the outstanding, Belize Water Services being one of the outstanding utilities in the Caribbean region. You'll see here the tariffs in the region. You'll see they vary from 0.14 US cents per cubic meter to 7.79 in the US Virgin Islands, where you're dealing with desalinated water. So tariffs, which are very variable. And I just want to highlight Trinidad, we are at 0.25 cents US per cubic meter. Now that has an incidence on the spiral of decline, which explains some of the issues we see in the water sector in the Caribbean. You'll see, I won't go in detail over the spiral of decline, but basically it starts with low tariffs. Then, you lose your autonomy, government intervenes with subsidies, and then the government calls the shots. And then, you are demotivated as a manager, and then, the service level goes down, clients stop paying, and then the systems go down the drain. So this is a spiral of decline, which unfortunately many utilities are, not all of course, but many utilities are experiencing in the water sector in the Caribbean region. So once again, it starts with low tariffs. In terms of the extreme weather events, Dominic also spoke about the fact that the Caribbean is subject to extreme weather events, hurricanes, earthquakes, and climate change. We have also been called the ground zero of climate change by the UN. Damages to infrastructure, damages direct and indirect have been quantified at 5% of GDP in 2025, or they will be, and they are estimated to go up to 20% of GDP in 2100 if there's no adaptation actions. Of course, there will be, we're hoping that they will be sufficient. So infrastructure networks, are important. That is what gives you agency in the world. That is what allows you to act. Water, transportation, electricity, and telecommunications. It's more important than wealth, in your agency. And so these infrastructure networks, the collective system that we have built, are impacted by climate change, and of course, they play an essential role in building resilience to those impacts. For example, a flood in France 5 years ago, 50% of the direct damage was on infrastructure. and 80% of the indirect losses were attributable to to failing infrastructures, electricity and water. You can see the importance of infrastructure and in terms of resilience to climate change. It's not the only sector affected by climate change, of course. There's biodiversity, agriculture, tourism, and migration. So climate resilient infrastructure is really key, and it really has to be mainstreamed in our in the investment portfolios, in the designs, in the construction and operation of infrastructure. So basically, it applies to existing, new, and additional infrastructure. It deals with traditional infrastructure, what we call gray, and also more and more natural infrastructure, what we call green infrastructure. It's a combination of structural and management measures. It's not only pouring concrete or building retention basins. It's also about management and governance of the infrastructure. We need flexible approaches to the design and construction and operation, because there's a lot of uncertainty, both in terms of the impacts of climate change in the future, and in terms of the socioeconomic development, migration, the unit demand in terms of infrastructure. So flexibility has to be built into these systems. The enabling environment has to be strengthened in terms of policies, spatial planning, regulation, standards, and disclosure. And of course, in terms of investment, we have to mobilize public and private investment. Public investment will not suffice to meet the challenges which have been estimated by the G7 at $40 trillion US in infrastructure in the developing world over the next 15 years. So if you do the maths, divide by 6 billion, then it's approximately 400 US per person per year over the next 15 years in the developing world. That's about if we are 30 million, that's about 12 billion US per year in the Caribbean, and which the public sector and multilateral donors will not be able to meet. So these are just quickly examples of climate resilient projects. They've already started. I want to mention the New Gen Clean Hydrogen project in Trinidad, 200 million US investment to produce green hydrogen.
1 minute.
Yes, okay, sure. Ecosystem based in VAC and climate resilience executing agency CREAD in Dominica. So these are interesting examples of resilient infrastructure project in the Caribbean. I'll just mention quickly the different opportunities. Global Gateway, which some speakers will speak more about. So it's a 300 billion investment, over the next 6 years, which is approximately 50 billion per year. So it's Europe's response to the Belt and Road Initiative, which was 1 trillion over 10 years, so approximately 100 billion per year. And there's also the Build Back Better World, which is a G7 response to the BRI. The next one is performance-based contracts, which some speakers will speak about later on. So there's been examples of performance-based contracts where basically it's not privatization, but basically the private sector brings in its know-how in terms of operation and efficiency, so to minimize losses and to increase efficiency. So that is an interesting, it's an opportunity for European business in the region. There's been examples of water sector PBCs in Bahamas, Jamaica, Dominican Republic, and soon in Suriname. Public-private partnerships. There's been a lot of PPPs in the Americas in the 90s, and then the model kind of dwindled. In the Caribbean region, not much, apart from Dominican Republic and Jamaica. But there again, many opportunities for PPPs, and I would say not only opportunities, but it's a necessity if we have to meet the financing gap for infrastructure, which I spoke about earlier. There's just a map showing PPPs in the American region, and you can see in the Caribbean we only have Dominican Republic and Jamaica and Haiti. I'm not quite sure what this Haiti project is. Water sector, well, it's my sector of predilection. So there's an infrastructure gap in the Caribbean. As I was saying, only 11% of the population has access to sewage, and considering that our urbanization is 55%, there's definitely a gap in sewage. So we really need to bridge that gap in the coming future. Challenges, I think I spoke about some of them, in terms of institutional regulatory and frameworks, which are outdated, not enough investment, mainstreaming of climate resilience is not yet there, and the need to boost PPPs and also work permits and tax governance and transparency. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stefan. Very, very appreciated. And I appreciate that you stick to the time, but as well, you have highlighted a number of interesting opportunities. I would like as well to highlight that those European companies that see opportunities perhaps through the Global Gateway, please do reach out through the European Union delegation, as they will be the key points on how to make this happen. And of course, if you have any questions regarding the Euro Chamber in Trinidad and Tobago, please do put them on the chat. Moving on, it's my pleasure to welcome Ms. Tamira, our senior trade expert in the consulting team, who will outline the key opportunities in infrastructure and utilities. Tamira, over to you.
Yes, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here, and I will be outlining the highlights about the business opportunities in this infrastructure and utilities based on our study. It is a highlight because both Mr. Mogollon and Mr. Quash highlighted many very important opportunities already. I want to remind everyone, this is the 15th year since the signing of the EPA, so we are celebrating. It's not the 15th year only, it's also October. So as I said, my name is Tamira La Cruz. I'm part of the team that did the study. I'm a private sector development specialist, and I am based in Curacao, the Dutch Caribbean. So let me just go, it's not very long. Based on our studies, the biggest infrastructural needs and challenges, and therefore also opportunities, also mentioned by the previous speakers, lie in the road infrastructure and energy grids and in water and sanitation, I should say. Mentioned already, with regard to roads, enlarging the network, paving, their mountainous roads, and possibility of sliding. There's maintenance that needs to be done. With regard to energy, reliability, accessibility, the cost, I will show a graph on the cost, and upgrading modernization of the energy grids. With regard to water, accessibility 24/7, because not all countries have that. Dealing with the non-water revenue, there's non-revenue water, there's someone speaking to that later. Wastewater treatment is one of the issues, and also sanitation. Mentioned already, countries are highly vulnerable to climate change, including rising sea levels, floods, strong hurricanes, extreme heat, which we are feeling now. The situation is worsened because of much of the economic livelihood tourism is concentrated in coastal areas. So there is not just a need to upgrade, and to upgrade for climate, but also because much of the economic activities are based on the coast. I said there's a few some slides here. If you look at the road networks in CARIFORUM, this is from 2020. You can see how big the road network is. You can also see the paved roads. You can see it goes from 100% in Barbados to about 18% in Belize. So there's a lot of opportunity for improvement there. With regard to electricity, someone mentioned the high cost already, but there's also, and you can see it on that last column, it ranges from, let's say, 33 cents per kilowatt hours in, or not even 33, 37 in the Bahamas, to about 7, I think that would be, or 6 even in Trinidad and Tobago. Transmissions and distribution losses, a lot of that happening, so there's a room for improvement in that as well. The key business opportunities, they are a number of them, and I want to talk about the ways in which you can engage in business with the CARIFORUM. One of them is to invest, the other one is to sell or trade in products, and the other one is to trade in services. Mr. Quash already mentioned, public-private partnerships is one of the ways, growing but not that large yet in Jamaica and the Dominican Republic, because the other countries are quite small.
Hello.
Excuse me? Excuse me?
Tamira, go ahead. Apologies. Go ahead.
Okay. Performance-based contracts is growing, power purchase agreements, and green and blue bonds have been issued. Products, many of the countries import most of their materials and equipment, so that's an opportunity. With regard to services, someone mentioned already, and we will mention there's limited human resources, both in capacity, in quantity and in quality. So there's much room for consulting, engineering, maintenance, consulting, or maintenance work, and capacity building of the local populations. So invest, sell products, or sell services. Some figures, some people will mention that, some speakers will mention it later on, but this gives an overview of the public investments in water, energy, and transport in the largest countries. You can see the total in Belize in 2021 was $63.5 million, in Guyana, 70 million, the Dominican Republic, which is one of the largest countries, 542 million, and Trinidad and Tobago, 171 million. The Inter-American Development Bank estimates that there's a total of 10 billion worth of new infrastructure and 9.5 billion worth of maintenance and asset replacement that is needed in the Caribbean region to comply with the Sustainable Development Goals. So that's 10 billion in new infrastructure and 9.5 billion in maintenance. All of that needs to be done. I know that we don't have all the money, but certainly that's a big business opportunity. There are many, many opportunities. You can find some on these procurement boards, Inter-American Development Bank and the Caribbean Development, CARICOM, and I hope Jean-Marco from the European Chamber will also tell us where you can get them. Again, based on the study we've done, the interviews we've held, many we've held, some of the key competitive advantages of European firms that have come to the fore are as follows. Europeans have an adaptability to different situations, different countries, different cultures, because it is a multicultural union. They've also mentioned expertise in and focus on sustainability and climate resilience. The EU is far ahead in that. There's a willingness by European companies to employ locals and transfer knowledge to them. So that's seen as a positive. The quality of European products and services is regarded as very high. And there is, of course, European Partnership Agreement, which will do away with any, mitigate the disadvantages that there may be in the region. We spoke to one European contractor, and he said that if he had known that there were no input duties for what the products that he was importing, he would have been paying a lot less and would have been able to buy a lot more to the benefit of the countries. So the European Partnership Agreement is indeed of great importance. With regard to the key challenges for European firms, this has been mentioned before, and it's real. The small scale of many of the countries, but again, not all of them are small, but many are. So that is one issue. There's limited human resources, both in quantity and in quality. Again, that opens the need or the possibility for capacity building. There's some currency risk in some of the countries. There's a limited European presence in the region. This has been mentioned to several, because if you have a European network, it's a lot easier to grow your business or make use of opportunities. And some have also mentioned some issues and challenges with the tender processes and obtaining work permits. In conclusion, CARIFORUM has a great need for investments in resilient infrastructure, also because of the country's extreme vulnerability to climate change. Number two, some CARIFORUM countries are small, but several, such as the Dominican Republic, are large enough to enable European businesses to achieve the desired scale. Guyana is the fastest growing economy in the world. It needs and can now afford investments in infrastructure. CARIFORUM countries look favorably to European investors, products, and services because of their quality and focus on sustainability. So that opens the road for European companies, and the EPA can make up for the disadvantages due to scale. So again, we invite your questions now, and we invite opportunities to do business in the region. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tamira. I would like to perhaps highlight before we jump on into the next session, is the fact that not only that the region has a great wealth of opportunities across the three sectors, but these also lie not only in the construction or building up new infrastructure, but also on the maintenance of the same. I think it needs that, as Tamira was showing, I believe that the opportunities on each of those two modalities are nearly the same, right? So building new stuff, but also it's important to keep it maintained so it continues to be effective and efficient. Just a remember, thank you as well for your questions, and we will address them at the end of the following presentation, which is mine. It is my pleasure now to introduce the key provisions of the EPA with regards to this particular sector. Thank you very much, Yash, for managing the slides for me. Next, just perhaps, and for those that were not so aware of what the EPA is, I hope that I'm able to raise your knowledge overall. So what is the EU CARIFORUM EPA? So the Economic Partnership Agreement is a bilateral, reciprocal, and asymmetrical trade agreement signed between the CARIFORUM member states and the European Union. Bilateral because, one backwards, please. Yeah, thank you. Bilateral because it's between the two parties and both of them grant each other trade benefits. Doesn't mean as well of reciprocal, but it's asymmetric in the sense that while the European Union has provided, for example, in the area of trading goods, a duty-free, quota-free market access to the CARIFORUM members. The CARIFORUM members have ranged, the liberalization on trading goods have ranged with around 90%, 87%, I believe. The similar element on trade and services, as Don David Mogollon was presenting with regards on trade in services, while the European Union has opened around 90% of its services sectors to CARIFORUM countries. The CARIFORUM, on the other hand, has done so in around 65 to 75%. So, how is the EPA relevant for you, for investors, for service providers? Well, there are two key elements that the EPA brings to you as service providers and operators. On the one hand, we have the market access, we have the commitments that have been made with regards to the different sectors and the different modes of supplies, on whether they are open to business, whether they represent an improvement to the status quo, but as well, very importantly, the commitments that the CARIFORUM member states have done through the different schedule of commitments and a schedule of concessions. They represent the ground for European operators. They represent the ground, the minimum treatment that the operators will be granted when they try to do business in the CARIFORUM. And on the other hand, perhaps as important as the market access, the EPA builds the enabling framework to support further investment and trade between the two regions. That is happening not only with tariff liberalization and trade liberalization, but also with increased transparency and the commitment obligations. Yash, next, please. Some of the key provisions, as I mentioned, it's competition, while the in this particular case, the member states have agreed to strengthen the competition policy, to strengthen the role that competition plays in the different economies. We have tariff liberalization. We as well have consideration with regards to investment, trade and services, and e-commerce, as we will be showcasing in the next slides. But as well, perhaps very importantly, the rules with regards to public procurement, as Tamira was saying, and as well as Stefan and David was saying, the role that PPPs play, and it's very important, and as well, of course, through government procurement. So all these different elements combined create the enabling environment for EU business to trade with the CARIFORUM region. Next, please. Right, so these are the three sectors that today we are focusing on: road infrastructure, water and sanitation, and energy. Next, please. So with regards, as I mentioned, to public procurement, the EPA sets up the basic rules and principles that bind the different parties to see how they have to operate. While the most important ones with regards to this area is mainly the promotion of transparency and accountability with regards to the public procurement practices. So as we will see, these are particularly relevant and apply to central government contracts of over 200,000 euros. Next, please. While it is mentioned that these doesn't mean that regional or autonomic entities are perhaps not binded for this. That is correct. So this is perhaps something that could as well be tackled through the rendezvous clause, but the current rules on government procurement apply to these central government entities that exceed this budget. And with regards to, so what are the principles on the government procurement? It's mainly transparency with regards to the promptly publishing of the laws, the decision, especially the procedures. We have spoken to plenty of EU operators, and a number of them have highlighted the fact that one of the key challenges that they face when for example, tendering through government procurement contracts in the region is perhaps the lack of information, the lack of perhaps transparency on the process. They might submit an offer and they might not even know whether they are winning or what's the status of the same. They might even realize that the project has started because it shows on the news. So this is something that the EPA, to the government procurement rules, tries to address. Right? It also has rules regarding the methods of procurements, but especially as well linked to transparency. The tender notices more to specify how is a tender. Is it selective? Is it limited tendering? It's a negotiating process, and so on. It also promotes the parties on both sides, both the EU and the CARIFORUM member states, to have a fair selection process and have a clear deadlines for the participation. It also specifies that all tenders documents must outline the technical specifications that are the basis for the tender, favoring, for example, performance-based contracts of functional design over just descriptive standards. So it's that promoting the fact that the tender winning must be technically based. Of course, conditions for participation must be advanced, must be communicated in advance, and suppliers cannot be solely based on prior contracts or experience. Very interesting is, of course, is that one of the key rules that is established on the EPA is the national treatment, through which the CARIFORUM member states and the EPA and the EU, for a matter of fact, have to treat both domestic and foreign suppliers equally in the procurement process without any discrimination on the basis of the origin of the goods and the services. Next, please. I might be going a little bit fast, but I'm as well, it will be bad if as moderator, I did not keep the time on myself. So perhaps a little summary of what the key provisions on the EU CARIFORUM EPA, the CARIFORUM-EU EPA, is that, as mentioned by my previous speakers, is EU firms and investors are allowed to access to CARIFORUM member states through, for example, MO3, commercial presence or investment. They have to be accorded national treatment, but there is, however, exceptions that might apply to the same, as the national treatment and even the market access conditions are limited and are conditional to what the members have tabled through their schedule of concessions, a schedule of commitments. I apologize, the schedule of commitments. Next, Jash, please. With regards to the liberalization on the road infrastructure, we see that in the specific case of the CARIFORUM, we have 7 countries in the region that have made commitments. With the majority of them, if we see on the figure on the right-hand side, we see that especially with M3, Mode 3, most of the CARIFORUM member states have liberalized Mode 3 for both market access and national treatment, perhaps with the exception of Jamaica, which has added a condition which requires foreign operators to provide evidence of local capacity at all levels. Doesn't mean that there cannot be no restrictions, for example, to market access. Well, there might be restrictions, but just remember that through the EPA, and when we are looking at the market access, there can be, for example, no limitations or not economic needs assessments, as there has been, at least for these 7 countries that have tabled this sector in their schedule. They cannot put limitation on that. So, for example, Jamaica has said that there must be local evidence for European companies to operate. But countries have made no commitments under Mode 4, so we will as well have to look at what are the commitments on the movement of national persons here and on the horizontal commitments. Next, please. Similar situation is seen on the waste and wastewater management. We see that 9 countries in the EPA have made commitments. Perhaps a question that might come is, well, the CARIFORUM has more than 9 members. They have more than 9 members. So what happens with those members that have not tabled sector commitments? Well, in this particular case, we see that, for example, Jamaica has not, or Dominica has not tabled commitments in this particular sector. Well, in this particular case, we see that the EPA would not bind them on these particular sectors, right? So the EPA on this sector only binds those countries that have made commitments to this. We see as well that this sector might be a little bit more sensitive, and it requires, for example, in some cases, like as Belize for Mode 3, the technology and knowledge transfer, or, for example, the fact that joint ventures are required in order to establish domestic presence, like in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Grenada, and Trinidad and Tobago. Next, please. In the energy distribution, we see that this is a sector that has the more limited sectoral coverage, with only 4 members showing some level of concession. So, for example, he has added that all Dominican, Grenada, Guyana, Jamaica, they have liberalized the market access sector for European companies. However, with regards to national treatment, it's only Jamaica, the one that has liberalized it. Next, please. So overall, just to perhaps to conclude, and I am 2-3 minutes ahead after my own time, is that the CARIFORUM overall, with the overall services, they have liberalized around 65 to 75% of the sectors. It's important to as well highlight national treatment has been granted through the EPA, meaning that with the exceptions that we have seen, EU operators and service providers have to be treated in the same way that domestic companies in the CARIFORUM region does, and vice versa. This is important. We have seen the road infrastructure is a relatively open sector, while waste management and energy might be a little bit close. However, this is to say as well, it's important to highlight that a few of these sectors are very much government procured services. They are services that are provided as part of the government role, and therefore, in most of the cases, these are excluded from the services. Thank you very much for that. I apologize if I was a little bit too fast, but we go, without any further ado, we go into the Q&A section. And the first one is perhaps Gavin. Yes, the presentations will be shared in due course. Dexter, very interesting question from Dexter Daniel regarding the fact that in practice there is a very limited access to the Caribbean, especially Trinidad and Tobago. For businesses into the EU, we see that, according to Dexter, regulatory and other bureaucratic hurdles continue. Even when the EPA access is cited, they claim, especially the operators claim, that they are never aware. And as well, there appears that this effectively the liberalization appears to be limited to cultural or entertainment sectors. Well, I hope, Dexter, that we have proved that that is not the case, that there are quite a few more sectors that have been liberalized. But Dexter's question is, what tangible support is available into the formation of EU businesses for supply of services? I would kindly send this question to Stefan. How can we, and perhaps as well, I will give the floor afterwards to Jean-Paul Marco as well as Eurochamber in the DR. But Stefan, what tangible support can Eurochambers, Trinidad and Tobago, and perhaps as well the European Union provide in the case of situations like the one faced by Dexter?
Yeah, well, yeah, thanks, Doctor, for this very pertinent question. And it's true that, it's access to European markets, enshrined in the EPA agreement. In practice, it's not always that easy. And, I think in many instances, there's a lot of bureaucracy involved. And, organizations like Eurocham TT are there to, to help, but to guide Trinidadian businesses, for example, wanting to do business in Europe. I mean, I think you mentioned the cultural sector and the entertainment sector, but that's not all we can do. I mean, in the region we have a lot of potential, and we have a lot of good things going, which we also export to other continents. So yeah, I do to some extent acknowledge the difficulties because they are real, but we do have success stories. It's not like it's hard for everybody, but you need to be informed of the procedures and of the requirements, and you need to be, I think, assistance from from people like ourselves or other organizations would definitely help. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for that, Stefan. Question from Anthony Brandt. Which is example of the best functioning water utility in the CARIFORUM? And Stefan, I believe this is also for you. Which country has the highest percentage coverage of constant water supply? And what is the average percentage of water system loss? And which country has the lowest percentage? And Stefan, if perhaps I'll let you the floor. These figures are actually available in the report that will be made available shortly after this workshop. But Stefan, happy to let you tackle those three questions as well.
Sure. So there was a graph in my presentation. I'm not sure if you'll remember, but there was a graph, governance versus performance. So arguably, and I think based on all the data we have, Belize Water Services is the best functioning utility in the Caribbean, in terms of performance, in terms of governance, in terms of efficiency. So, Belize Water Services does stand out. To some extent also, National Water Corporation in Jamaica also is a very good utility. So, I would say Belize and the Jamaican National Water Corporation stand out as being among the best utilities. In terms of non-revenue water, which is the difference between what you produce in volume and what you bill in volume, the average in the Caribbean is 46%, which is considered high. In first world countries, it's between 15 and 20%. But we have situations in the Caribbean. The average is 46, but unfortunately, there are countries where non-revenue water is over 50%. So there's a lot of work to be done in this region in terms of efficiency of our water systems. And I believe we have a presentation later on to deal with that.
Thank you very much for that, Stefan. Of course, there's going to be a brochure summarizing the findings of this webinar, which I believe if it hasn't been published yet, it will be done shortly. There was a question as well regarding the tangible support extra. Is the fact that, and as highlighted by your colleagues at the European Union delegation, Barbados, is the aim of this precise project is to educate both the European Union businesses and the CARIFORUM businesses and stakeholders about the EPA and its opportunities. And I think there is a question regarding Dexter on the national treatment. Dexter highlighted that while we were mentioning that national treatment implies that we have to treat both domestic and foreign suppliers equally, what about the access to work permits for professionals to work in the EU? Well, this is an area that the European Union, the same way that the CARIFORUM member states have highlighted, the mode 4 is a quite sensitive one for both, and it's in most cases subject to specific immigration rules. There's a message from Marie-Louise as well, from the Euro Chamber in Trinidad and Tobago. It is important to point out that supplying services to the government of Trinidad and Tobago is that supplies must be now registered on the Office of Procurement Regulation, unless the funding is from an international development agency like us. There is a link for everyone to register, those that are interested, so please do use it. And as well, if there are specific hurdles that you face when you are facing and when you want to do business in the CARIFORUM, please reach out to the specific Euro chambers, either the Trinidad and Tobago on the Dominican Republic one, but as well to the EU delegation. They might be able to provide support. You have their email address on the chat box. And as well, it's important to highlight that both Euro chambers are there to provide linkages as well with local entities, as is a good way to enter the market. And as we have seen in the energy sector, it might actually be a requirement to form a joint venture. We're gonna launch a second poll ahead of the second session. If we can launch it now, please. It should appear. There you go. Well, this is a little feedback on ourselves. So how useful has the presentations that we made, whether it has led to some improvement about your knowledge. I hope that at least some improvement has been achieved. We're gonna give some minutes to answer this, and as well, remember, please, the reports that will be circulated contains a quite detailed analysis on the rules of the EPA. So this is going to be an important element for you to use when you are considering doing business in the CARIFORUM region, and especially to be aware of what are the rules that apply. We're going to give some more seconds for this to run. All right, well, we see that the majority, we see that there has been a good improvement. So I think that is a success for us. Right. I think with the ending of the poll, well, thank you very much. And we hope that the first session was very interesting as well. Thank you very much towards Stefan and Tamira for your interventions. You clearly raised my level of understanding of the opportunities that the EPA can bring on the particular sector. Without further ado, it is my absolute pleasure to open the second session of this webinar, where we have 5 speakers that will share the specific market outlook and challenges that the different sectors have and they experience as the private sector. The first speaker, it's my absolute pleasure to welcome once again Gianmarco Paul Fernandez. He's the president of the Euro Chamber of Commerce of the Dominican Republic, and who has as well, together with Euro Chamber Trinidad and Tobago, he has provided tremendous support to the team for this study, the webinar, and as well in previous occasions. So Gianmarco, we thank you for that support, and as well, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Pablo, Tamira, Smita, and my congratulations to all of you in International Consulting for this great initiative. I think it's very informative for all the European companies who are here today. Do you see my screen?
Well, we don't see it on presentation mode now. Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Perfect. So my apologies in advance. I will not be able to stay until 12, but if you have any questions, I'm going to give my email out at the end. And I reiterate myself at all of your disposals, all the participants in this webinar, and all of you who may have any further questions about the Dominican market, about opportunities, about challenges, about any sort of problems that you may be facing. We're here to help. So let me just give you a brief framework of what we're going to be discussing. We're going to basically, my presentation will be basically based upon the business context in the Dominican Republic, opportunities, some key opportunities, particularly in the infrastructure and utility sector, an overall check and balance in EU, Dominican Republic relations, just to give you an overall view. My main objective is that you're able to come out of this presentation with let's say, a brief context of the Dominican Republic, and that you are able to, if you want to come into this very important market, the largest in the Caribbean, you're able to have a clear picture in your mind about both opportunities and challenges. So let's move forward. First of all, I did not present myself, but first thing I should have done, my name is Gianmarco Po. As Pablo well said, I am the president of the Euro Chamber of Commerce of the Dominican Republic. And so I think the first question most people do ask is, what is the Euro Chamber of Commerce of the Dominican Republic? Well, the Euro Chamber of Commerce of the Dominican Republic is a confederation of chambers. We are a very interesting organization in that we were created in 1992, and we unify as our membership the European Binational Chambers of Commerce in the Dominican Republic, and indirectly we represent over 800 Dominican and European companies in the Dominican Republic. So we are a very large and a very interesting private sector organization. Our main aim is to facilitate and promote trade between the European Union and the Dominican Republic. And as I often like to say to my members and to everyone who asks, my main purpose is both-way trade. I want trade to come from the Dominican Republic to the European Union, and from the European Union to the Dominican Republic. So in that sense, we are a very equitable organization, as we might say. So as I was saying, we're a one-of-a-kind organization. Our members represent Germany, Spain, France, Belgium, Luxembourg, Portugal, Italy, and most recently the Netherlands. And indirectly, we represent over 800 companies of European and Dominican capital. Our members, as of yet, are chambers of commerce that are our main members are the Dominican German Chamber of Commerce, the Dominican Belgian Chamber of Commerce, the Spanish Chamber of Commerce in the Dominican Republic, the French Dominican Chamber of Commerce, the Italian Chamber of Commerce in the Dominican Republic, and the Dominican Portuguese Chamber of Commerce. Let's move forward. Basically, we, as I would say before, we are basically the main business organization that seeks to promote trade between the Dominican Republic and the European Union. We have a history of more than 30 years. And in those 30 years, we have established a well-known and important presence in the market. We are considered one of the top European chambers of commerce in the region, along with our good friends in Trinidad and Tobago. And we have a clear specialization in law, business, logistics operations, and corporate relations in Central America and the Caribbean. And as members of the European Business Organization, we have an international network that allows us to facilitate trade and to widen our reach, as one may say. So let's get to the facts. And as I said, my purpose is to provide you with an overall understanding of the Dominican Republic and why it is that this market is so important. So key facts that we all know: the Dominican Republic is the largest economy in the Caribbean and Central America. It has a population of 10.5 million to 11 million people. It has a stable population growth. The last census was done this year, and through the results were around 11 million people, but it has a consistent population growth. It has a GDP per capita. It has a GDP, I mean, of 113 billion dollars, and it has a GDP per capita of about $8,000, and it has a GDP growth of 4.9% per year. It is a very stable GDP growth. Our friends in Guyana recently stole our distinction of being the fastest growing economy in the Caribbean region, but we are still a very interesting economy when it comes to consistent GDP growth. Let's also talk about why does the Dominican Republic stands out? Well, the Dominican Republic stands out for multiple factors. First of all, it is near regional market. It is right in the heart of what I like to call the Caribbean region, and it's right in the entrance from the Atlantic Ocean to both the Americas, South America, North America, and Central America. It is a gateway to many, many markets. It has a safe legal framework. It is a hub of technology in the region. Its geographic location is excellent. We have preferential access, and we also have a litany of free trade agreements, both the DR CAFTA as well as the EPA agreement. We are a hub of air, sea, and the maritime connectivity. We have about 5 or 6 ports. We are a hub in the region for maritime connectivity. We are a hub of know-how and logistics infrastructure. We are right now one of the leaders in the region, and we have a very interesting local market. Our economy, as I said before, is a $113 billion economy that continues to grow in a very interesting pace every single year. So you just want to want to watch out for those particular opportunities that I'm going to lay ahead and that I think are very, very interesting. So when it comes to the EU and the Dominican Republic commercial relationship, as you all know, the Dominican Republic is the EU's most important trading partner in the Caribbean. That's not my words. The president of the European Commission's words. Both have a well-established diplomatic and commercial relationship, the former being labeled as a strategic partner. Last year, in 2022, bilateral trade between the Dominican Republic and the European Union increased to the record level of about $4,137 million, which was a record when it comes to trade. And that is a very interesting and a very fascinating continued growth, particularly since the signing of the EPA agreement in 2008. Through that period, we have seen an increase in trade of about 231%. So very clearly, the EPA agreement has been a game changer when it comes to EU-Dominican bilateral trade relationships, and particularly when it comes to incentivizing both the presence of Dominican products in the EU and the presence of European companies and products in the Dominican Republic. Exports, we all know that basically the Dominican Republic has a very strong input when it comes to organic agricultural products. For example, we are the leader when it comes to export in organic bananas and when it comes to organic cacao. And the European Union has a very strong export sector to the Dominican Republic when it comes to mechanized products, jewelry, etc. And so, as I said, after the EPA agreement in 2008, trade between the European Union and the Dominican Republic has increased by 231%. And as you all know, the CARIFORUM exporters benefit from 100% duty and quota-free access for all products. Under the CARIFORUM-EU agreement, 17% of products and services are considered sensitive and are entirely excluded from liberalization and maintain tax revenues, and the Dominican Republic basically accounts for somewhere between 32% of the EU's trade with CARIFORUM. So it is a very interesting and a very important trade balance sheet that does indicate that this is a market with a lot of opportunity. So just some numbers so that you all can understand what is basically the influx of trade and what is the main dynamic. The Netherlands is the first European destination of Dominican goods, representing 35.58% of all Dominican exports to the European Union. Next comes Italy, Germany, Belgium, Spain, the UK, etc.
Yeah, Marco, 2 minutes.
Perfect. So the very same way, I'm just gonna gloss over this because I think this is the interesting part for all of you when it comes to infrastructure sector. So the infrastructure sector in the Dominican Republic is in a critical moment right now. The current government has engaged in many initiatives and has primed a big push when it comes to an infrastructure transformation in the Dominican Republic. These are the main infrastructure sectors that you should be looking out. Transportation infrastructure, right now we have the Santo Domingo Santiago Railway project. We have 2 new international airports, Pedernales in San Juan. We have the Santo Domingo Metro extension, and we also have the second phase of the Santo Domingo Beltway, among others. Those are the principal ones. You should watch out for those. We also have energy infrastructure. The Dominican Republic wants to become a hub of logistics, wants to become an energy hub. Currently, we are experiencing a boom when it comes to the renewable energy sector, but one of the main impediments is when it comes to the transmission lines. So the government is really searching for investment when it comes to the creation of transmission lines, because the Dominican Republic wants to achieve 25% of its energy matrix being renewable in 2025, which is most likely will, but we also want to achieve 30% in 2030. Telecommunications sector is another sector you should look out for. There's many opportunities, water and sanitation, tourism infrastructure, of course. I don't have to really delve into that. Housing and real estate, education and healthcare facilities. And my colleague, Idalia, from the General Directorate of Private-Public Partnerships will talk more about the PPPs, which are a new model that the government is basically trying to implement. It's not a new model when it comes to the international sense, but it's a very innovative model that the government is trying to utilize to converge both private and public funding in projects. So key factors, tariff reductions. You all know that the EPA agreement basically, one of its benefits or remains benefits is that the EPA provides for progressive reduction or elimination of tariffs on goods imported from the EU, regulatory cooperation, another interesting and very fascinating point. The EPA includes provisions for regulatory cooperation between the EU and the Dominican Republic and intellectual property protections. So finally, let me give you some tips to do business in the Dominican Republic. Work with local partners, search out local partners. I know my friend and the member of the board, Fernando Silva, is here. He was in the infrastructure sector, so he can tell you local partners are incredibly important when you want to get into this sector, particularly because the sector is very competitive. Research the market, try to understand the opportunities, try to identify particular points of opportunities that are in particular markets. For example, that term, the big problem with the transmission line, which is a bygone effect of the growth of the renewable energy field. That is very interesting. If you can identify those key opportunities, you can get ahead of the competition and understand import regulations. Get the support of a law firm or get the support of local partners who understand the market, who are able to, first of all, explain to you the legal framework, and who are, second of all, able to give you some guidance when it comes to opportunities in the country, in the region. And thank you very much. Well, you have there our general email, info@belchamrd.org. I'm going to put my email in the chat box, and as I said, reach out if you have any other questions. And Pablo Tamires Mita, thank you for the opportunity, and and thank you to all the previous orators. All the presentations were very interesting, and good luck to Marcy Rodriguez, who's a great friend.
Well, thank you very much, Marco. It's impossible to summarize everything you said in a few words, but just to perhaps highlight that the Dominican Republic, as mentioned by Gianmarco, is not only growing at an incredible pace at 4.9%, it's as well expected to continue growing.
Not only that,
well,
we are the Dominican Republic. If it continues in its current trajectory, the World Bank has estimated that in 20-25 years, we will be a developed country. I mean, it is not only one of the fastest growing economies in the region, but it is also one of the fastest growing economies when it comes to standard of living. So that is, so my message is keep an eye out for the Dominican Republic, because the opportunities will multiply by the day.
There you go. I couldn't have not said that any better. Thank you, Gianmarco. Without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce Marcy Gonzalez Rodriguez. Doña Marcy is currently, apologies, the Spanish kicking in, is the National Investment Promotion Country Coordinator at the United Nations Industrial Development Office. She's gonna be presenting extremely interesting portal called the Invest in ACP portal, which is funded by the European Union and the OACPS, the Organization for African, Caribbean, and Pacific States. The portal aims to facilitate access to information and to pertinent investment projects in the ACP region. Marcy, thank you very much for being here with us, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Pablo, and all the coordination for this webinar. It is for us definitely an honor and an opportunity to showcase the work that we have been doing here in the Dominican Republic, but also in the Caribbean area. I will share my screen and sorry.
Perfect. We can see it, Marcy.
Okay, perfect. As you mentioned, I am working here as part of the UNIDO team as a national coordinator for investment promotion. The project is called ACP Business Friendly, Supporting Value Chain through Inclusive Policies, Investment Promotion, and Alliance. And this is the agenda. I will speak a little bit about the project, the intervention framework and methodology, and I will go indeed into presenting the portal that is part of the platform Invest in ACP that we are developing here in the Dominican Republic, but as I said, also at the Caribbean level. Well, to start, the project started in 2019 during some inception process where all the countries were evaluated and the decision was made on to which country will be implemented. This is a regional project where UNIDO is having intervention in 8 countries in the ACP region. In Africa, we are in Cameroon, Ethiopia, Ghana, Kenya, Senegal, and Zambia. In Pacific, we are in Papua Nueva Guinea, and here in the Caribbean, we are here based in the Dominican Republic. We have a regional component implemented, also working with investment promotion agencies in Grenada and Suriname and Turkey and Caicos. We have been in touch with some other countries. We haven't started yet the cooperation with them, such as Jamaica and others, and my colleague that is here in this event, Cindy Mendieta, is working with them, providing technical assistance in the investment project packaging. This program, as you mentioned, is funded by the European Union and implemented in collaboration with the OACPS and has 2 co-implementing agencies. This is the World Bank Group, working in what we have been called the macro-PIC pillar. They have been working on business regulations and policies, mostly with the Ministry of Industrial Commerce and SMEs, and also International Trade Center. They have been working on the micro pillar, which is mainly strengthening the value chain and mainly in cocoa value chain. They have been supporting the participation in different events. What is the framework and the methodology that we are implementing? We are basically improving the business environment through an investment relationship management, the investment opportunity development and packaging, and then the investment promotion, lead generation, and targeting. We are trying to bridge the gap between the investees and the investors. This is all what we think that we are contributing with the business ecosystem in the Dominican Republic in specific. And how do we do that? First of all, we have been extensively working on identifying the projects, which means that we are connecting what we call the source entity, which are these institutions that are the project owners. This could be both public or private. We have been working here in the Dominican Republic with the Ministry of Civil Works and MEOPC, as well as others like the Ministry of Agriculture, or maybe also with a private sector where this project comes from. We are establishing some collaboration, as Gianmarco mentioned, that we have been working together, presenting the methodology to the European Chamber members, as well as local Chamber of Commerce in order for them to present the methodology and how we are recommending to do this investment project packaging. This, we are assisting technically to the investment promotion agencies mainly, which is Pro Dominicana, Centro de Exportación e Inversiones de la República Dominicana. But as well, we are working with some other institutions as NGO, local NGO. We are working with IREN, which is based in Santiago de los Caballeros, but also with the academy. With them, we are mostly working with SME levels, mainly with the DGAPP, which is Isalia Lopez that comes after me with the PPP projects. We are looking for diversification and types of IOPs, which is investment opportunity projects, in joint ventures or minority stakes, franchises, and all this kind of typology of investment. What we are looking for is to bridge the gap and strengthen the capacity both in the IPAs, but also in the collaboration with these institutions, the source entities that generate the project. This could be the Ministry of Energy and Mining or the National Commission of Energy. This is to mention some examples. And this is where the Invest in ACP portal comes from. This is a marketing tool for promotion, all these opportunities that are generated in the Dominican Republic and also, as I mentioned, in this some Caribbean countries. We can generate, the portal has a feature for investment lead generation where all the information of the potential investor are collected, and this creates a database for the IPAs and the country to manage the information and link the projects that they have with these potential investors. You can use the portal to create your QR IFPs, and it is a one-stop shop for investment opportunity because you have not only the information of the projects, but you have publications. For instance, Pro Dominicana has the investment guide or information of the statistics, and also all the industrial parks that are available. Then we move forward for the mobilization and targeting. As I mentioned before, the idea is to focus the attention of the projects and sectors that we have in here with the right investor that they are looking for. Not only the traditional investors, but also impact investors that are looking for more than the financial return, but to have social impact and environmental impact and economic impact. This is why we are also working with Ministry of Foreign Affairs, MIDEX, in order to support the commercial trade representative abroad for the promotion of these projects based on their daily work that they do. This is in summary what we are doing. We have the investees and we have the investors and the institutions and the government that work between. This could be also the source entities for these projects, as I've mentioned, and we have InvestCP portal where you can put together all these actors and create the environment for promotion of these opportunities in infrastructure or any other sector, including the differentiating the tickets or the typology of project they are interested in. What is the ACP platform, Invest in ACP platform? So this is a portal developed by UNIDO as part of the ACP Business Permit Program, which provides the information of the location of the investment, including opportunities, institutional partners, and all the information about this specific project and countries. And this is the front end, speaking in the language of the technology. We have DIPS, which is the Digital Investment Profiling System, that constitute the back end of this process. This is where all the work is done. Here in the Pro Dominicana, we have a staff that has been trained in how to populate the information on these profiles. We have been giving them the information on what is the key information that a potential investor will need in order to facilitate this process that would end on an investment. information about the market or the technology and know-how that is also here in the country, but also that is expected from the investor, the human resources that are needed, what are the conditions of where the project is going to be implemented, what is the local partner bringing, if there is the government or a private entity.
Marcy, 1 minute left.
Oh Lord. Well, this is the pitch that this the profile will provide, and I will go to this is the portal where you can find all the information on the countries that we are working with, and I will go rapidly. This is one of the infrastructure projects that we are already showcasing. This is in health, even though it is part of the global gateway interest or priorities. In this is information that you will have. The title of the project, which is a micro hospital Punta Cana by Emergency Medical Group, and it specifies what is the main actions that are they looking for. You can share the information. There is a summary of what the project consists on, where the project owner can explain a bit what is the project about and the strength. Then we can go for the project sector, the campaign, which is the information that we have here for evaluate the project annual sales, what is the product or services. In this case would be access to rooms, beds for health, and the opportunity type. This is a joint venture, the country, the project location, expected employment, if this require an NDA, what is the total investment and the funding gap. In this case, this is a project of 5.7 million euros. We have highlighted the SDG related to this project, in this case, the 3, 9, and 10, and what is information of this project that they have. They have all the information, and interest partner or investor can contact Pro Dominicana directly from here. They provide all the information, and someone here in Pro Dominicana will receive immediately this information. As I mentioned, DIPS had more information about this project. We are not looking for to present all the information in the first place because we need to generate this interest. Also, we have these mountain roads, which is a project coming from the Ministry of Public or Civil Works. This is a construction of a highway between Constanza and Padre Las Casas. And the main project objective in here is to connect communities and also have a tourism related importance, and also the commercial aspects of this, as well as the other one. This is the information. In this case, this is a project looking for multilateral loan, and specifically 8.4 million euros. As well as the other, you can do, scroll down the information. And the last one is one that is being promoted also by the Ministry of Civil Works, which is a construction of the drawbridge over the Osama River, which is in the Gran Santo Domingo area. And well, this is the information that the projects bring. If you go to the main page, you can go where it goes insights and you go countries. And this is showing you what are the country, the version countries that we have, and then you can go through all these flags of the countries, and you can see what opportunities are in there. If you go to the Dominican Republic, we here have all the information, as I mentioned, the institution, the file available, the publications. And in projects, you can scroll the menu in here, and you can choose whether if you want in agriculture, fishing, manufacturing, electricity, and all this information where you can pick directly which sector are you interested in, the type of investment. It is a majority stake, or it is a PPP, or it's a joint venture. Even you can see the alignment with the European developments sectors and thematic windows to you can see if it's on SME or the sustainable finance impact, investment, or the investment goals. And in here, well, you can see all the projects that are being showcased in the country so far. So with this, I think I will end up my presentation. And of course, if you have any comments, I'll be happy to answer.
Marcy, thank you very much. I did not have the courage to cut you because this platform seems extremely interesting. Please, Marcy, if you don't mind, please drop the link to this platform on the chat so that everyone can access it. Please have a look. There were some comments from the participants about how to find information. Here you go. This is an extremely interesting way. And without further delay, it is my absolute pleasure to welcome as the third speaker, Ms. Isalia Lopez. Ms. Lopez is the Deputy Director of Promotion of the General Directorate of Public-Private Partnerships at the Dominican Republic. Not only that, but she studied in Barcelona. Isalia, espero que el teu català estigui de alta categoria. It is, without further ado, Isalia, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Greetings to all the attendees of this webinar, Infrastructure and Utilities Trade and Investment Opportunities in CARIFORUM. My name, as you were saying, is Isalia Lopez. I'm the Promotion Deputy Director of the PPP unit in Dominican Republic. And for me, it's an honor to be here on behalf of our Executive Director, Mr. Simon Freund, to share some information about the Dominican Republic PPP program and some good things that is happening in doing business here in this country. We have to start saying that Dominican Republic is a vital trade link between Europe, North America, and the rest of LATAM, offering preferential access to more than 1 billion consumers through different free trade agreements, besides CARICOM with the United States and Central America, the CAFTA, and with the European Union through the economic partnership agreements. On the other hand, it's important to highlight that the PPP law, because that's why I'm here today, began to take shape in 2016 and finally was enacted in February 2020, and is a legacy from the past government. This law, the 47/20, contemplates a maximum term of 40 years. And in addition to the public initiative, it admits unsolicited proposals. The work done by the PPP unit has been very challenging, but very rewarding these last 3 years. On July 2022, just 2 years after the implementation of the PPP program, the Dominican Republic ranked number 6 in the category of regulation and institutional framework for PPPs in the Infrascope study conducted by the economists, presented by the IDB. The Dominican Republic PPP law offers several advantages for the private sector, and we can mention some of them, starting with the efficient risk allocation, a greater transparency, oversight, and accountability, legal security that is very important for investment, clarity in terms and deadlines and procedures, incentive package for unsolicited proposal, as I've mentioned before, the law admitted, and excellent political and social and economic environment for doing business. Dominican Republic is the main investment destination in the Caribbean, with an average annual GDP growth rate over 5.1%, and with a democratic and stable government committed to facilitate investment and increase the trade flows. Besides that, and for last, the political support is very important, because since the first day of the implementation of the PPP program in August 2020, the President Luis Abinader, along with the appointment of the first director of the PPP unit, has driven and promoted the law in the understanding that they are very committed to facilitate investment and increase the trade flows. Now I'm going to move forward to the PPP projects. I know this is the important part of this presentation. And for the 2024 and 2025, the Dominican PPP unit has a project portfolio of almost $1.8 billion. This pipeline includes 4 projects relevant for today's conversation, which amounts to almost 1.3 billion. And this pipeline also includes a special project for me that is Puerto Duarte Port, a project that even though it's not one of the sectors we're gonna discuss today, its contract has been signed, making the first PPP project with the commercial closure in the Dominican Republic a milestone in such a short time in this PPP program. Well, we're going to start with the Amber Highway. The status of this project is right now is in the closing of the RFQ stage, and it consists of the construction of a new highway between the province of Santiago de los Caballeros and the province of Puerto Plata in less than 30 minutes, reducing significant travel time and improving the quality of land transportation. The initial investment of this project is $437 million, and the technical aspect is that is a design, build, finance, operate, and maintain toll road of 32 kilometers. Also, an O&M of an existing toll road called Circunvalación Norte de Santiago, and it has as well a contribution in kind of a land by the Dominican states. The term of this contract is 40 years maximum, and the estimated time for design and build is 3 years. I'm going to talk about right now about an important project for this administration is the Metropolitan Train of Santo Domingo. That contemplates an expansion of the Santo Domingo Metro that will start from the Juan Pablo Duarte station, where the 2 current metro lines converge, and will end at the International Airport of Las Americas. The projects will be implemented in 2 stages of 2 phases, each one. The technical aspect of this project is that it's a design, build, finance, and maintain, and the public sector will be the owner of the income and will pay an availability payment for the private party. The term of this contract will be 40 years. This is preliminary information right now, and the project construction period will be 2 years. The initial investment is $548 million. We're going to move now to the water and sanitation project that will be in Punta Cana. This project is very important. We'll try to make it happen since maybe 10 years, but right now is an unsolicited proposal that was presented in the GGAPP that contemplates an infrastructure capable of providing the service in water and sanitation in reliable and safe way in Punta Cana, Bávaro, Dominican Republic. You all know that Punta Cana is the main touristic destination right now in Dominican Republic. This project is a design, build, finance, operate, and maintain, and the project consists of drilling a well field with an initial design of 150 pumping units with a supply capacity of almost 1,500 liters per second. The term of this project is 40 years, and the initial investment is $322 million. We're going to talk about now and move forward to the photovoltaic system for public hospitals. Very interesting project that, although it has a small ticket because it's only $45 million, it will consist of implementing a photovoltaic energy program to improve the quality of health services received by users by the National Service of the Dominican Republic, the National Health Service. And this project contemplates the design, the build, finance, and maintain of solar panels in the public health centers. Right now, we're talking about 20 health centers. And the term of this project is 20 years, and the initial investment is $45.5 million, as I mentioned before. So that will be all for now. In the next slide, you can see a QR code to the DGAPP institutional teaser for more information about all the transactions we are structuring right now. And thank you very much for your attention. And on behalf of the entire team of the DGAPP, we appreciate the opportunity given to us to participate as a panelist in this great and important scenario. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Izalia Lopez, for your presentation, as well for highlighting some of the interesting projects that are extremely relevant to our participants. Perhaps, Izalia, please do drop in the link to the chat, and as well, I encourage everyone that might be interested in the projects to perhaps reach out to Ms. Lopez to further explain and explore those opportunities. Moving on, my pleasure to, as the next speaker, is Mr. Alvaro Ramallo. He is the country officer at Milla Water Jamaica, a global water operator headquarters in Spain, my home country. Alvaro, tienes la palabra.
Buenos dias. Good morning. I can share the screen, correct?
Right. And before you start, Alvaro, it's a reminder for everyone that you have available the brochure summarizing the results of the report and highlighting some of the key facts of the utilities infrastructure sector in the CARIFORUM. It's in the chat. Please do have a look and consult it. Alvaro, we can see your screen and we can hear you as well.
Okay, I'm going to do a brief presentation. 10 minutes is the limit for the presence of MIA in the Caribbean and the footprint that we are leading in the region. We are starting like we like to say in these water efficiency projects. We will do a top-down analysis. So we'll start from the world, the global problem, and then we'll come to the Caribbean, and finally a more detailed assessment of the Caribbean projects that we have been developing over the years. It is estimated that around 350 billion cubic meters of water are lost every day. These, if it was well maintained and regularized, the system, it will be enough to serve around 2 billion inhabitants. Therefore, the costs of this inefficiency, the cost of this non-revenue water that was explained very well by Stefan, which is the difference between the water that you put in the system and the water that you invoice. So is the water that is lost, there is no revenue generated, is around $40 billion in the world. When we look with some detail to the regions of the world, we see, as is represented in this graph, that the Caribbean region is top in terms of losses, and also almost top in terms of liters per connection per day. So it's the use of water that is done by person. And this is very impressive. That's why the Caribbean region for water projects, it is must. This is an overview of our projects all over the years. We have a presence in Bahamas since 2012. We have a presence in Jamaica since 2015. And we have long-term contracts, which are mostly performance-based contracts. These contracts have a very important part, which we like, which is to have the risk of achieving the targets, and this risk is rewarded by some part of the payments, which shows how MIA faces the problem. We want to be part of the solution, and therefore we take the risk, and we don't want to come and do a project with a fixed cost. We want to help the client to be a solution of win-win. As you can see, all the projects have ups and downs, but the overall trend is always bringing the losses from a high point to end point, and also having some stability on the operations of the system as the lines are flattened through time. This is the detail of the Kingston project. It started in 2015. It was the capital city that was serving around 800,000 people. We are talking about 125,000 customers, and the losses came from 130,000 cubic meters per day to a stable 70,000 cubic meters per day. How was this possible? It was possible by the methodology that we apply, which is based on International Water Association, which is a recognized water efficiency association, where we help the client in a co-management mode, which is we work with the local water utilities, we work with the staff of the utilities, and we work with equipments of the utilities. We train them, we build capacity, and after that, we start the voyage, the trend of going down. So we have a period of time, as you can see in the initial year, of preparation and standardization, standard operation procedures, training, etc. And from that, the implementation of the activities, you can see the yellow and the blue line going down the mountain, where the base is the objective of the project. It is true, we didn't achieve the objective of the project in Kingston on year 5. It was rendered an extension, and we continue to maintain the levels. Today, the city is better than these numbers. It's around 50,000 cubic meters per day, and the client is very satisfied, and it's much more resilient and capable of facing the climate change, the global warming, and the rain patterns that has impacted severely Kingston over the years. On the other side, a second project was awarded to MIA, and we have been since the first day to reduce losses. The yellow line, as you can see, is the results monthly, and the gray line above, which is below target, is showing the 12 months rolling average. So this project is almost on the third year, and we almost reach the target of 10,000 cubic meters per day of water, another impressive result. And this was based on a success story, again, of co-management, of training, of building capacity. So the technicians from here, which we are based in Spain, in Madrid, are here installed with the projects in the long term. We train and work with the water utility for 5 years. And usually after 3 years, we reduce the losses to what is the target, and then we maintain for a period of time, which is a big success. Why NRW? Why to do these performance-based contracts that could also be PPPs? We are open to any solutions. We are fit to purpose. Is because at the end of the game, we not only save water, which is a crucial asset, and it's always having some level of depreciation because of the high rain in lower periods of time. The reserve is also limited, but we really impact also another factor, which is the energy. As you can see in Portmore, only with 2 years, we already reduced the energy footprint and of course the carbon footprint of the system from 140,000 kilowatt hour to below 100,000. And this impacted immediately on the pocket of the client, and the water utility is reduced from above $50,000 per month of electricity bill to below 40,000 in a stable manner way. So all of this is a result of a co-management work with a training. We are open also to work in other Caribbean countries. We are eager and hopefully to work in Dominican Republic, which is a great market and has great potential. And we will continue to do our job in our 8 years contracts in these countries where we have a long, stable, and profitable win-win relationship with our water utilities. Thank you very much. I hope that I was inside of the 10 minutes, and I'm open for questions. if
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you very much, Álvaro. Muchísimas gracias.
De nada, un placer.
Muchísimas, very interesting presentation, especially entering into the world of performance-based contracts. Álvaro, I do have a question for you, but I will address it afterwards. But as well, to highlight that, yes, well, Álvaro gets hired and the Maya works and Maya-like companies work on a performance-based contract. The contract ends up paying by itself with the savings that companies are able to achieve, especially the operators are able to achieve through the increased efficiency. Now, thank you very much for that, Álvaro. Without further ado, we move on. It is my pleasure to introduce the last speaker of the session. Last but not least, indeed, Mr. Gerard Priscilla. Gerard is the Regional Business Development Manager at Siemens Energy. He's going to be speaking about opportunities and challenges on energy grids. And of course, Siemens Energy is a global leader in energy and technology. Gerard, over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Definitely. I hope last but not least, is it in present? Yep.
We see you. We see this the screen, but it's now it is perfect.
Perfect. Thank you, and good morning, good afternoon to all the participants of this very valuable forum here. So again, hopefully last but not least. So before I kick in, I have to take care of a little legal stuff here. Get my lawyers happy. So we've all agreed to this. So who am I? I'm the country lead business development manager for Siemens Energy in Trinidad and Tobago. I have a wonderful team of 9 employees that support me in the Point Lisas office. So my task today, or my instructions, was to give a highlight on some of the opportunities and challenges in the utility sector in Trinidad and Tobago. So I chose to divide this presentation in basically two sections. One, pre-renewables, and then the second, of course, post-renewables in Trinidad. Before I kick off into the challenges and opportunities, I should say again, it's not a technical assessment, this presentation, nor is it a critique of TNTech, which is the responsible body for transmission in Trinidad and Tobago. But I certainly sympathize. It is very challenging in Trinidad, as you would see in the future slide. So we are literally a twin island. So with that, there are certain challenges with the transmission grid. We're not fortunate, let's say, to lean on a neighboring grid in times of need. So we have to be 100% self-sufficient in Trinidad. Some of the challenges I see right now, the black start, it's diesel generation. This certainly can be changed over to battery energy storage. Aging infrastructure, I think that's probably a common one in all the Caribbean islands. Location of our generation. So let's see, 1 second, get my... Right, location. So in this area here of the island, you have basically your three generation facilities: TGU, PowerGen, Trinity. But yet in the east-west corridor, you have your dense population. So that certainly gives some challenge with your transmission. So frequency regulation, spinning reserve, it's certainly challenging. I would love to see in Trinidad some smart grid technology, upgrade to more efficient transformers in Trinidad. There's certainly the opportunity for that. As well as, unlike the other Caribbean or fellow Caribbean islands, Trinidad has a strong petrochemical industry. So given that you have high load demand, as well as and was pointed out in earlier of one of the presenters, our electricity costs is very low in Trinidad. There's a lot of discussion right now on that, and I think sometime this week, well, the week is almost ended, but I think we'll probably hear or see some changes to the rates. As well as there's definitely challenge with the legal and regulatory framework. And I think these 3, or the last 2, the cost of electricity and the regulatory, is hampering our petrochemical sector from, let's say, can they reuse their waste heat for generation, right? And transmitting to the national grid. That is something certainly I see we will, there's already discussion on it, So I see in the near future, this will probably come to fruition. Of course, for this to happen, not only the regulatory, but bi-directional flow of power, the equipment to make something like this happen. Now, if we go over to the renewables, we saw recently in the last few months that Lighthouse BP Shell announced a 112 megawatt project that should break ground. I'm hoping shortly. Now, this in itself would definitely put a challenge to the grid, and I'm hoping there is discussion right now, a collaboration between the stakeholders, TNTech, Ministry of Energy and Infrastructure, Ministry of Planning and Utility, and the private sector, yeah? Because we all know the renewables, especially solar, it's a non-dispatchable technology. So how is TNTech going to manage this in the future? So I see opportunities for storage, and I see opportunity for smart grid technology in the very, very near future, as well as there are discussions and legislative gaps and ambiguities. This is happening. Personally, I think it could be a lot faster, but I'm still very hopeful that the discussion is happening, and I think in the coming years, less than 5 years, we would have a significant amount of renewables on the grid. Hi, Pablo, are you hearing me?
Yeah, we can hear you perfectly, yeah.
Oh, I think my screen just froze on me. Yeah. Okay, wonderful. So you
want to stop sharing perhaps and then try to share again?
Yeah, let's give that a quick go.
No webinar would be a webinar if we had no technical issues. So I think that's okay.
Exactly, and I'm not even seeing the stop sharing portion.
It should be at the top.
Yeah, I'm seeing new share. Let's go over again. Okay, perfect. Are you guys should be seeing the screen now, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, something happened. Not anymore.
All right, we see it perfectly now.
Okay, yeah. So this was the solar, and then keeping within the renewables, there was a report reference here setting the path for wind energy generation in Trinidad and Tobago. This was funded by the EU. It's a really amazing report. I think at the end I place a link to it. So basically it's showing that at least 2 gigawatts of potential wind energy by 2035, right? So how would TNTech manage this on the grid if investors start developing this? Yeah, so these are some of the highlights, the challenges I think that lay in front of TNTech, and as well opportunities for not only Siemens but a number of other companies that are in that space. To close, I want to just add some references on these slides. You will have a copy of these slides. So Invest TT, I think the next important date for us in Trinidad is the Energy Chamber of Trinidad and Tobago, their annual energy conference in January. So this is a very good conference that we would participate in. And of course, the RIC, the Ministry of Energy, the Ministry of Public Utilities, Planning, these are all entities that investing in Trinidad or doing work in Trinidad, you will have to interact with and participate in. Yeah. And last but not least, I added my information. I'm always really willing to happy to share our experiences, Siemens Energy experience in Trinidad and Tobago. We do have an office, as I mentioned earlier, in Trinidad. So we are doing direct business with both the public and private sector in Trinidad. And with that, Pablo, I'll turn it back over to you.
Well, thank you very much for that, Gerard. And we managed to overcome the technical issues, which is great.
Yeah.
You as well have given us a lot of interesting information. I hope that the participants as well are capturing everything that is happening, and especially you have highlighted, Gerard, a number of very interesting opportunities in the different sectors of energy, especially particularly in the wind, for example, and storage. We are turning into the Q&A, and we have had a bit of interaction here. So thank you everyone for your questions. So for Marcy, Maria Louise from the European Chambers of Trinidad and Tobago asked, how involved is CAIPA and Caribbean government in getting projects enter into the portal? Are there MOUs with them to update the portal, or there are performance indicators to remind them to update the portal, particularly given the fact that the portal is an animal that is alive and must be kept alive in order for it to be relevant, right? So this is where Maria Louise's question is geared towards. Marcy?
Yes, thank you. In fact, thank you for the question, Maria Louise, because it's part of the challenges that we have faced. Since I was running with the time, I will share my screen again, if you allow me, just to mention these best practices and opportunities, because this is the key challenge, because we are working with Pro Dominicana on the establishment of a SOPs and standard operation procedures, where there is a systematization of the methodology, working with the different source entities coming from the government. This is what we are trying to achieve with the ministers where we have been working with, but not only in the public sector, but also in the private sector, where Pro Dominicana will have a system where they have to constantly not only getting the information to populate the portal, as you mentioned, it's a system that relies on the information, and this is one of the challenges. The collaboration and sharing information, it needs to be strengthened and definitely systematized. So these opportunities are always available when they come. This is how we are working also with DGAPP, supporting them in the case of PPP projects. This also one of the challenges that we have seen is the dedicated staff that has to be in the institutions in order to complete all the information that is needed. And this is also an important aspect that even within the ministries or the private sector has to have, because Pro Dominicana provides the assistance and the follow-up of filling in all the information that is needed, but not necessarily do the work. So this is definitely very important that there is an alignment within the institutions at the government level to provide the information that is needed in order to have a very robust investment opportunity to be showcased in the different scenarios. And also I would like to take the opportunity to mention the best practices that we have is that there is an interest. I mean, it has been identified like a gap that needs to be filled in terms of the project packaging. Mainly of these opportunities are in the concept ideas or half of the information, but there is the interest on improve their way of doing this project package. And the financial, I didn't mention, but we are also providing financial feasibility software that is supporting the analysis of bankability of these projects. But yes, I take note of your comment, and I will share this information with Pro Dominicana and see how can we also tackle with your support, with your chamber support, of course, and all entities that are working funding the project European Union to seek out this issue.
Thank you very much, Marcy, for that. Very, very insightful. Alvaro, there is a question from Anthony. I know that you answered it in the chat, but I think it's a very interesting one for everyone to hear. So how is the working relationship between Maya Water, or perhaps any supplier of this kind of services, especially with workers of the local water utility? Utilities tend to be highly unionized. There is no conflict on resistance. Let me perhaps add as well, these utilities as well tend to have very experienced workers that have been doing that job for 20, 30 years. How is the relationship working? How are you managing to effectively transfer the know-how? Because one of the key objectives, I assume, from these performance-based contracts is not only to do the job, reduce the water, but as well to transfer the know-how. How is that achieved?
Very well detailed, the question. You look like you understand really the problem. The key aspect is the cultural change. You need to have a transformation, and sometimes it's a digital transformation. It's not work anymore by hand, but bring new technology that you do paperless activities like a job order, to go and find a leak, repair a leak, or install a pump that is via SCADA runs automatically instead of having a person grab to an activity. So that cultural change has been happening. It's not overnight, it's true, but it takes a lot of steps that we are prepared, and we successfully did both in Jamaica and Bahamas. That's why we are so confident talking about it, because we know that via standard operation procedures, via training, via a shadowing process that our workers have a shadow on the NWC side or WSC side, which are the water utilities of both islands, where every person is responsible for their work, where there is a transfer, and after the shadowing, there is a transfer of activities, and we get out of the driver's seat and we put the water utility person running the department. It could be the leak detection department, could be the pressure management department, and there is a continuous training and building capacity from the 5 years that we work together, which is the usual duration of these contracts, which allows us to understand and talk about the problems. And then, of course, there are the lessons learned, which from a initial project in Kingston, we extended 1 more year, and then we signed another project for Portmore that I showed both results. The start of the second project was much more efficient than the start of the first project because of the lessons learned. We studied together, we do a post-mortem analysis, and when we didn't achieve the goals, we came back and we decided how to do differently. And the client has been amazing. When sometimes I understand in the presentation that was talked about lack of human resources and the capability of the same resources, I'm slightly against it, because I think there is wonderful people in the Caribbean that are eager to participate in these projects. And because these projects are not here, probably sometimes they are United States of Europe, they are obliged to migrate to find these type of projects. But when you bring the technology, we have excellent engineers in Jamaica working with us for more than 5 years, that they started as supervisors and today they are managers. Why this happened? Because we trust them, we give them a chance, and they prove to be able to learn the technology, to learn how to proceed and to operate, and that's why they are today in upgraded style. So all of this is a long story, but a successful story, and we are proud that this could be replicated in Trinidad and Tobago and Barbados, in Guyana, in Suriname, or in Dominican Republic. We don't care. We just want is to save water and to start to save it right now. So whoever wants to be in that journey with us, we are ready. Just call us, send us email, and we'll start working tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much for that, Alvaro. Very appreciated. I do have one last question for Izalia. So you showcased a bunch of very interesting activities. My question for you, and I hope that a lot of our participants here have that very same question, is how can we reach out to you? So what is the process to say, hey, how can we, I'm interested. How do we reach out to you, Izalia, and express our interest in opportunities like this?
Thank you, Pablo. It depends. If someone wants to present an unsolicited proposal, we have a guidelines for the submission of these type of initiatives, and we can send it to you by the chat. And if you want to participate as a bidder in the tenders that we are structuring, of course, we have different ways to let people know that are running. We have Pro Dominicana as a great partner to do that. We have different types of platform, information, InfraSAP. So there are and we, of course, we have it on social media and the press. So we have different types of channels to let know people that we are running on a tender.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much for that. So Izalia, if you could please post it on the chat, that would be very appreciated and as well, very much informative. There's a last question from Martin. I believe this is more addressed for the EU delegation. Perhaps David or colleague Arek can address it. It's particularly whether there is a specific budget or a particular budget split with regards to the global gateway. That would be, and then yeah, David or Arek. So how is the budget divided? Is it per country? Is it per region?
Thanks for that question. I hope you can hear me. We would like, could the person asking leave his or her email address, and we would reply that David is not with us anymore here. He had other commitments, so, and he's really the master of the financing. So I'll relate the question to him. It's the global gateway projects are now being devised only. So there is a general big budget of several billions of euros, but how this would be distributed across the Latin American Caribbean region is yet to be settled. So yeah, we'll come back maybe with more details when they are known, but please by all means leave your contact details then.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that, Arek. Margin has already dropped his email there, and as well address your question on the Margin. If you want to reach out to them, to the EU delegation in Barbados, please do reach out to them. Marcy, you have your hand raised. Would you like to intervene?
Yes, please. I forgot to answer the question in regard to CAIPA. And I just wanted to mention that we are indeed in collaboration with CAIPA as well as with Caribbean Export. And this is the work that we are doing at the level of the Caribbean, where we are participating together in some investment promotion activities, and also with supporting, providing technical assistance to some countries. Has been thanks to the collaboration with CAIPA and Caribbean Export. And we are going to participate next week at the Caribbean Investment Forum, which is going to take place at the Bahamas. And of course, if any of you are going to be there, we are going to be there promoting the project and the portal.
Well, thank you very much for that, Marcy, for that clarification. And as well, our colleagues of the EU delegation in the Dominican Republic have dropped in a very interesting link explaining further the global gateway. So Margin, please, and everyone, I do recommend that you have a look at it. Right, we have one last poll, I believe. The questions are going to pop in your screen at any minute now. Please, team. Here you are. There's more to know about your interest. So where are you interested in investing? So where do you see this happening? It can be the 3 sectors that we have looked at as well. It can be other kinds of subsector that we might have not covered, but as well, remember that a lot of the rules, a lot of the opportunities that we have been highlighted as well, go a little bit beyond the road, water, or energy grid. So please answer this. And as well, the team at International Economics has put together an evaluation survey. We would very much appreciate if you could please answer it. It's on the link in the chat, and my team will drop it again in the chat so that you have it easily available. All right, so I think we can move on to the second question. I apologize, Juan Luis. He is from the delegation of Trinidad and Tobago, not from República Dominicana. Is from the delegation Trinidad. Apologies for that. And please, if you can let us know which countries do you see where you're interested in investing. What are the key markets in the region of the ones that we have highlighted, we have discussed? Which are the ones that has your highest interest? With regard to Chenny, Joseph, we invite you to participate in the upcoming webinar, the one that we will have on maritime and logistics. We will let you know at the end when is that happening, but that would be extremely relevant to your organization. Then there is a last question. Do you find information provided by investment promotion agents in the region helpful to get an idea of business opportunities? Well, some yes, some no, but overwhelming majority is yes. So well done to you, investment promotion agencies. And while the poll is running in the background,